welcome back to the Surf Mastery Podcast. I am your host, Michael Frampton, and today's guest is Guy Kawasaki. You may have heard that name. He's very famous in Silicon Valley, especially for his early role and involvement with Apple. He's gone on to do a lot of projects since then, too many to mention in this short intro, but one of his most recent projects is a very successful 200 plus episode podcast called Remarkable People, and he recently released a new book called Think Remarkable, based on those interviews. And the main reason that I wanted to get him on the show is because he started surfing at 60. Yes, 60. Started surfing at 60. So yes, Guy has a very unique perspective on beginning surfing, and I was very excited when he accepted the invite to come on the show, and he did not disappoint. So without further ado, I will fade in my conversation with Guy Kawasaki. Hello, Guy. How are you?
I'm good. I can hear you now, yes.
Excellent. And I've got you. Right. And it's recording. It looks like all the technical stuff is out of the way.
Don't get overconfident. The day is young.
It sure is. Well, and your lust for surfing, that's also quite young. Starting at 60, my gosh, it's very late in life to start surfing. What inspired you to start?
What inspired me was that my daughter in particular became an avid and competitive surfer. And so I have a different parenting perspective and philosophy. I think many parents, what they do is they inadvertently or advertently force their kids to take up what they're interested in. So if you're a golfer, your kids golf. If you're a surfer, your kids surf. If you are a physicist, your kids take up physics or violin or whatever. Rather than me forcing them to take up what I love, I let they determine what I should take up based on what they love. And so they loved surfing and they loved hockey. So I took up hockey at 44 and I took up surfing at 60 because that's what my kids are into.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you're a good dad, and that's an awesome philosophy. And I actually have the same philosophy. My kids got into football when they were quite young, and I just started playing with them. Even though I never grew up playing it, I never liked the game, but now I actually love the game and have a strong appreciation for it. So
when you say football, you mean American oblong football or European
soccer.
Round ball? Oh, okay.
Soccer, yeah.
because if you took up American football at a late age, it's hard to get 21 other guys out there with helmets killing each other. So.
Oh yeah, it's a rough sport. I mean, I grew up playing rugby, so I'm no stranger to that sort of world. But yeah, it's not something you do when you're certainly not something you take up when you're older. It's a brutal sport. Surfing can be pretty brutal too. I mean, I'm sure you've had some gnarly wipeouts in your learning curve.
Well, listen, my sweet spot is, maybe 3 to 4 at the most. Okay. I am perfectly happy at 1 to 2 feet. My daughter, surfs at Mavericks and stuff, but that's not me. But I will tell you that there have been times where in a 1 foot wave, I fall down and I lose perspective and reference, and I'm paddling, trying to get back up to the surface, and I hit my head on the bottom because I was going the wrong way. I've done some very kooky things, I assure you.
So I'm interested to know, you're a smart guy. I'm sure when you decided to start surfing, what was the first entry point? Did you get a lesson with someone? Did you just buy a board and jump in? How did you go about it?
Listen, when you start surfing at 60, well, one would hope that in 60 years you've acquired some kind of street smartness. So you figure out that you're just not going to go to Costco and buy $150 board and then go out to Mavericks and decide to surf and, with your goggles and your GoPro and your helmet and, your zinc on your face. So the first thing I did is I took lessons. I took lessons in Hawaii. I took lessons in India. I took lessons in Santa Cruz. You know, I I took lessons at Cowles, at Jack's. I I kind of figured out that when you start that late, you gotta accelerate the pace, and the way to accelerate the pace is to get instruction, not by hanging out with Groms all day trying to surf during the summer.
Yeah, so you sought many different opinions on instructions as well. That's a great strategy. Was there one in particular lesson that stood out to you?
Not every lesson was difficult. um, no, uh, I started paddle surfing. I don't know why I started paddle surfing, but anyway, so I started with paddle boards, and then a surf instructor here in Santa Cruz was just who was coaching my daughter at the time. He definitely established the, should I say, pecking order in surfing, and let's just say that paddleboarding is beneath prone surfing. And so it was a constant humiliation. So at one point I got tired of being humiliated, and I just said, all right, so throw away the paddle, give me a narrow board, and off I go.
Yeah.
And he, for months, I mean, he was pushing me into waves, because I don't know, to this day I think the hardest thing in surfing is knowing where to sit and when to turn. It's like I barely understand it. And when I'm out there and I'm with experienced surfers and they turn and they catch a wave that I don't even see the wave. I'm like, what are they turning for? And then not only that, they turn and they catch a wave that I barely can see. And they only paddle twice. And I'm paddling like freaking 50, 60 times trying to get up there. It's a different world.
Oh, it sure is. And you nailed it. I mean, no matter what level of surfer you are, getting into the wave or choosing the right wave and getting into it in the right spot, that's always the hardest part. Because once you're standing up on the right part of the wave, surfing's actually really simple and quite easy.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mystery to me. I mean, with surfing, there are so many variables, right? I mean, there's the wave. Well, even the wave, there's the height, there's the direction, there's the speed. Are you at the peak? Are you on the shoulder? That's just the wave. And then you got to think of the wind, and you got to think of the other kooks in the water, and you got to think of, I mean, they're like, then you got to worry about, well, have a 10-inch fin, and it's -1 tide, and all the kelp is sticking out, so that's not going to work well. I mean, there's so many variables. It's such a cerebral sport.
Oh, yeah. Now, and if so, how, has surfing made your life better?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I surf every day. In fact, today I might surf twice. And so here's like a Guy Kawasaki typical kind of story. So I have Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease has three symptoms, which is sporadic attacks of vertigo, tinnitus, which is the ringing in your ear, and hearing loss. And so basically, my ears are all messed up. And it's not surfer ears or anything like that, because I have only been surfing 10 years. So it's not from surfing. This is a pre-existing condition. So if you said to somebody, if you have middle ear issues and, vertigo and deafness and tinnitus and all that kind of stuff, why don't you take up ice hockey and surfing? That's the perfect sports for you. I mean, the two sports that require balance the most I took up with bad ears.
Wow. So you like when someone tells you you can't do something, that you see that as a challenge?
No, I mean, I didn't listen. I mean, people have told me I cannot do a lot of things, and quite frankly, they were right. So it's not a matter of proving them wrong. I will just say that Like the first time I played ice hockey and the first time I actually caught a wave and stood up, it was magic. It was like, holy shit, this is like, where else can you get this feeling? It's like magical to be standing on a wave and somehow like you don't have to do anything. Like nature is pushing you forward. In my case, 12 to 15 miles an hour. I mean, and and you don't need a hill to do that, like skateboarding. And plus, skateboarding, when you fall on the pavement, it's a lot different than falling in the water. So, surfing is just magic. It's the most fun I think you can have legally.
I agree, and so do all of our listeners. But it's also one of the most challenging things that you can. I mean, have you? Is that's a good question. Is surfing the most challenging thing that you do?
It is by far the most challenging thing I have ever tried to learn to do, by far. I mean, um, because there are so many variables. There's so many external variables. And then there's your internal, there's like your body weight and your body type and your hip flexibility. And, I mean, it's a very complex cerebral sport. And I don't think people who don't surf, they don't appreciate how difficult it is. Because like basketball, you run and you jump in the normal course of life, right? I mean, uh, I ice hockey is like that too. You don't skate naturally. I mean, that's something you have to learn. The fundamentals you have to learn. So, I think part of the attraction for me for surfing is that it is so hard. If I became immediately good at it, the thrill would be gone. But it's taken 10 years. Like my dream, everybody has to have a dream, right? So my dream is to be able to take 4 steps and hang 10 on the nose. Okay. In 10 years, I'm now able to sometimes take 2 steps. So it's taking me 5 years per step. So I need another 10 years to get the total of 4 steps. I hope I make it.
Yeah. Well, Jerry Lopez says that the first 20 years of surfing is just to test if you're really interested.
Oh, I interviewed Jerry Lopez for my podcast. So yeah,
Yeah, I know. I listened.
yeah.
Yeah, great. You did a great job.
Yeah, it's a funny story. You'll appreciate this surfing story. So, this weekend we went to a surf meet in Huntington Beach, and on the sidewalk at Huntington Beach, there's like the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's only the surfing Walk of Fame, and there's these, I think, brass plaques for these famous surfers, right? So I saw Sean Thompson's, I saw Lane Beachley's, and I saw Jerry Lopez. And I happen to know all three people because of my podcast. I sent them all messages and they all responded. Yeah. Sean Thompson's response was, "Oh, they spelled my name right."
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, no, I saw that you know Sean. I interviewed Sean a while ago for the podcast, and actually see quite a couple of similarities between the book he wrote and the book you wrote. As in,
Yeah.
you chose not to make it a 3-page behemoth full of fluff, and it's such a good book. It's so succinct, and it's the kind of book I'd rather spend 12 hours reading a good book 3 times than 12 hours reading a long book once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I hear
what?
you. I hear you. And one of the things I think about many nonfiction books is they take 200 to 300 pages to explain one idea, right? So like, oh, you should make a prototype very quick with the minimum features and get it out there. And then if it doesn't succeed, bring it back and change it fast. Well, I just explained a 300-page book about minimum viable product and pivoting, right? I mean, what else do you need to know about that concept besides what I just explained in 10 seconds?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really really enjoyed your book. It's definitely one I'm going to go back and reread because it's so
Well,
succinct.
I want you to know that I am a much better writer than a surfer, just FYI.
What has surfing taught you anything about other aspects of your life?
Oh, listen, I can interpret almost all of life with using a surfing metaphor, right? So, one obvious one is you can sit out there in the water looking for that perfect wave all day and never turn and paddle. And if you do that, I guarantee you will not catch any waves. Same thing applies to life, right? You can be waiting for that perfect company, that perfect product, that perfect service, that perfect co-founder, that perfect VC, and you could, try to make this perfect thing, and then that means you will never do anything. Same thing as surfing. Another analogy I would say is that yes, you try to pick the perfect wave and you turn at the perfect time at the perfect angle and all the perfect stuff. But I think one of the things I learned about surfing is at some point you turn and burn, and then you just need to make that decision right, even if it's wrong, right? You got to compensate. Yeah, you would like to be in the barrel on the face of the wave, but guess what? You're an idiot. You're in the white water, so make the best of it, right? And that's another metaphor for life, is that you got to make decisions right.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of describe that in the book by saying just plant many, many seeds because you don't know which
Yes.
one will eventuate, and you catch lots of waves. I mean, that's the thing. I've said before on this podcast is that when you watch a surfing movie, you've got to realize that there might only be 10 minutes worth of surfing that you're watching, but it took a surfer a year worth, 5 hours a day of surfing to get those 10 minutes worth of surfing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you can apply that to almost everything in YouTube, right? So on the YouTube, when they show, oh, this is a guy hitting half court shots, they shot him for 5 hours to get him making a half court shot twice, right? And you
That's
think,
right.
oh, he just goes out and does every one like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And surfing is a lot about sort of being in the right place at the right time. And when you look at your career, I wonder how much of that's true in your career.
Oh, my career is more about being in the right place at the right time than it is about being in the right place because of my decision. Okay, I guarantee you that. Um, I call this guy's golden touch, which is not whatever I touch turns to gold. Guy's golden touch is whatever is gold guy touches.
I like that.
So yeah, so you know what? This is the equivalent of that in a surfing metaphor is sometimes, and it's happened to me sometimes, you expect to get clobbered, right? And so you turn your back to the wave and you lean back because you're about to get clobbered, and somehow the wave catches you and you get a ride without even trying to get the ride. Yeah, I'm telling you, a lot of people joined companies that they had no freaking idea what it was gonna do, and they turned out to be millionaires. Oh, I don't know, what's this company Google do? I don't know. They needed a facilities manager, and I didn't have a job, so I went to work for Google. I was the first Google's facilities manager, and now come to find out, my stock is worth $50 million. Yeah, I'm so smart.
Mm, yeah.
There have been waves, I guarantee you, Michael, there have been waves that I caught that I didn't intend to catch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That happens all the time. And then you turn up to the beach and without even knowing it's going to be good, and it happens to be good. There's luck involved in everything.
Yeah, yeah,
How do you define
absolutely.
luck?
I think luck is, it's a matter of, it's a lot. It's okay. Getting back to seeds, luck is planting a lot of seeds. Right. I mean, you don't get lucky by staying on the sand. You get lucky by being in the water. You got to plant a lot of seeds. And then, even if you're lucky, you have to take advantage of that luck. So you can't be a dumbass. You can't be a lazy schmuck, and luck comes upon you, and everything just is automatic. Even being lucky, you need to work hard. You need to be prepared. You need to be ready. If your board is not waxed and you're not sitting in the water, yeah, you could be the most lucky guy in the world. You're still not going to catch the wave.
Mm, yeah. And you have to be sort of looking for those opportunities as well, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading a book about luck, and they did a test where they left a $20 bill sort of in a corner next to a sidewalk, and 95% of people just walk straight past. But the person that noticed it considered themselves lucky, but really they were sort of open to be, or just being observant and looking for those opportunities.
So you're saying those people saw it and didn't pick it up, or they didn't see it at all?
They didn't notice it. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't directly in the middle of the sidewalk. Obviously, everyone would see it, but the corner of it's just sticking out. And if your peripheral vision, if you consider yourself a lucky person, then your peripheral vision is actually more likely to pick up on little things like that.
You know, I hate to tell you, but it's a related story, not necessarily the same story, but I'll tell you something. To this day, if I were walking down the street and I saw a penny on the ground, I would pick up the penny. I really would. I think that, you know, and listen, a penny doesn't make a lot of difference to anybody, but okay, but it's just the principle of you should never leave money.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good metaphor too. If you're surfing in a crowd and a wave comes your way, and you probably should just take it rather than wait for the next one.
Well, I have to say that being deaf, I have a cochlear implant. That's how come we can do this interview, but you can't wear a cochlear implant in the water. So being deaf in the water, there are some advantages to that. So like number one, Jerry Lopez says you should never be talking in the lineup. You should always be focused on surfing. Well, I hardly talk in the lineup because I cannot hear. So there's no sense talking. So that helps. And then let's just say that like every other kook in Santa Cruz, I drop in on people, okay? And then when they yell at me, I cannot hear. It doesn't bother me at all. They can yell all they want. I don't even hear.
Interesting. I wonder, do you think that could be an advantage? Because then,
It is an advantage.
Yeah.
Because like if I heard the person yelling at me and telling me to go F myself, then it would get in my head and I'd be pissed off and there'd be an argument and who knows where that would lead. But now I just like, I don't know. I'm deaf. I literally people have been like, jabbering at me. And I said, I'm deaf. I don't know what you're saying. I just paddle away. So if anybody's listening to this from Santa Cruz and you yell at me and I ignore you, that's what's happening.
Do you sometimes purposely take it out when you're doing other things to increase your focus?
Oh, my implant?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I am blessed with a form of OCD that when I get focused on something, whether it's writing or editing or anything like that, I can be anywhere. I can be in the middle seat of Southwest Airlines in row 35 and I can concentrate. It's not a matter of what I hear. So I never have to do that. I just lose touch with reality. It's the same thing when I speak. When I speak, I have gone on stage with a migraine headache. I've gone on stage feeling sick. But it just takes over me, and I'm just like in a zone.
Interesting.
It's the Sean Thompson zone.
Have you always been like that, or is that something that you've had to work on and foster?
I can't remember. I think it just comes with repetition. I don't think I was born like that. I don't think anybody's born like that. But I certainly have it now.
Is there a bigger picture behind that though? Like, is there a driving force that sort of allows you to keep trudging forward?
Well, for a while, I have 4 kids. So for the longest time, my motivation was 4 tuitions. Now, now, as of next week, only 1 tuition will be in play. So that has reduced the pressure. But I guess I am just driven. I am driven. I have a high need for achievement. And so, like this podcast, I do 52 episodes a year with no revenue. Like, on paper, you'd have to say, "Guy, why do you do that? Why do you like kill yourself doing a podcast?" And I'm just driven. It's just driven by achievement, and in a sense, the same thing applies for surfing for me. I do a lot of dry land training and stuff because I'm 60. I got to catch up, right? So I can't just get out there and automatically assume everything's going to work. So the secret to my success in life, surfing, or to the extent that I am successful in surfing, the secret to my life is grit. I am willing to outwork anybody.
Mm. And there's also, if you're doing dry land training, then there's a lot of, and podcast as well, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that.
Yep. Nobody can out prep me.
Oh, okay. I'm interested to know what does your dry land training for surfing look like?
Oh, okay. I could do even more, but I practice pop-ups. I'm trying to constantly increase flexibility. I should even, I do more than anybody I know, but I know I could do so much more. It's just that in the last year or so, this book has been just taking over my life too. But I'm telling you, I am gonna hang 10 I'm gonna hang 10 and then I'm gonna drop dead right after that, and everything will be fine.
Oh,
If
funny.
they're just gonna get I've seen them take dead bodies off the beach at Jack's, and the fire department comes and they put you in a little, one of those. Is it a sleigh? What do they call it? One of those baskets. They bring the dead body up from the cliff in a basket. That's how they're gonna take me out of Jack's.
Okay. You die happy then. Death on the nose.
Yeah. He was so shocked he hung 10, he had a stroke and died.
Yeah, well, you get the right wave, get the right board, you'll get there for sure. It's a good goal.
Yeah, I have to tell you though, it's much more likely that I hit my head on the ground and drown than I hang 10 on my last ride.
I've got a feeling that you'll get there.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
So out of you've done so many podcast episodes, like over 200, is there any commonalities between like all of these guests?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a sense, the commonality with 250 episodes reduced to that's 5,000 pages of transcripts. So that 5,000 pages of transcripts has come down to 170 pages in a book. There's a lot of commonality. And the lessons of the book reflect the commonality. And at the highest level, the commonality is that to be remarkable, you need to have a growth mindset. You need to be willing to pay the price and be gritty. And finally, you need to be grace and gracious to be remarkable. And that just happens over and over again with those 250 guests.
Mm. How do you define grit?
Grit is the ability to do something when you are not necessarily getting positive results, and nor do you necessarily enjoy it, but you just are willing to pay the price.
So is there an element of faith or hope that goes with that?
Or delusion. In my case, it's delusion with surfing. But you know what? One thing I figured out is it doesn't matter why you're gritty. It's just that you're gritty. You could be stubborn, you could be OCD, you could be delusional, you could be whatever. But as long as you just keep putting it out, that's all that matters.
Mm. Mm. Okay, then grace. How do you define grace?
Grace is when you come to this realization that you are successful in life and you are fortunate because there were teachers and coaches and mentors and bosses. There are people who opened the door for you. And because somebody opened the door for you, you should open the door for somebody else. So it's a sense of moral obligation to the world to pay back society.
Mm. Okay. How would you define grace in the surfing world?
Okay. This is, I could tell you some really great stories here. So at 38th, there are some surfers who are really quite good. I mean, like, I would love to be as good as them. And they are so good that they can catch a wave and they can surf the whole face. They can catch it in front of Jack's house and they could go all the way to like Pervs or to like practically the hook, right? They can take the face the whole way. And some of them do. And you know what? When you're at Jack's and there's a lot of beginners and novices, there are lots of people who are going to catch the wave and get in your way on the face. And, and, and that's like, that's just the way it is at Jack's. Jack's is for kooks and beginners, right? And so these really good surfers, they can take the whole face and they get really pissed off with people and they yell at people and they scream and they push people off and all that. And I just don't understand that. And believe me, I've been one of those people who've been pushed and yelled at. And what I don't understand is like, okay, if you are so freaking good, go to first or second or go to the hook. But you're just trying to be a big dog in this little shit pond. So, like, what is your problem? And like, everybody's out there, they're just trying to have a good time, learn how to surf, catch a few waves. So, like, why are you being such an asshole? And then it's like, you know what? Guess what? There's nobody from the WSL sitting up on East Cliff looking for people for the WSL. So I hate to tell you, I can drop in on your face and I'm not going to affect your professional surfing career. So just shut up and go to second or first. That's my attitude. They completely lack grace. And I have a theory that the better you are, the more gracious you are. It's the middle ground, right? So when you're really a beginner and lousy, you don't know what the hell you're doing. When you get kind of good, that's when you figure, I'm the big dog. I can get the face. I can hang 10, I can do cutbacks and all that. But then when you get really, really good, you say, oh, I want to help other people enjoy surfing and I'm going to, help them and coach them and encourage them. You don't yell at them. The really good surfers don't yell at you.
Yeah, I love that definition and I totally agree. Yep. Joel Tudor is famous for saying that the ultimate goal is Skip Fry.
But Skip Fry was like that.
He still is. He's still out there surfing every day. He's in his 80s and he just glides gracefully along on his
but
glider.
Does he yell at somebody if a kook dropped in on him?
No, of course not. No. No.
I mean,
he's been surfing so long that you just wouldn't. I think sometimes surfers also, I think a graceful surfer has this sort of demeanor about them that you would feel bad dropping in on them because they're so graceful and they're not taking every wave. Does that sort of make, yeah. But if you're out there trying to take every wave and yelling at people, you're actually more likely to get dropped in on again and again and again. So thank you, CCTV.
Oh, God.
I think part of it is a lot of those people, they surfed, 20, 30 years ago when there just was, 1/10 of the amount of people in the water. So, and they kind of expect it to be like that still. Even though you're right, they can go for it. They can drive half an hour and go somewhere else where it's more difficult and where there's less people.
Half an hour. They could paddle 500 yards to the right and they could be someplace else like that. And then, but I think a lot of those people, they realize that, at Jack's, they stand out. But if they went to first or second, they would be at the bottom of the pile again, right? And they would be yelled at, not doing the yelling. They cannot adjust to that. So
yeah, that doesn't feed their ego.
Yeah. Second peak is my Mavericks.
That's okay. So that's grace, and the I quite like how you defined compassion as a combination of empathy and grit. I really liked that
Right.
definition. Can you speak a bit more on that?
Well, the empathy part is easy, right? I mean, when you think of compassionate people, they can empathize, they can feel what you're feeling, they can understand, they can relate, right? But the difference between empathy and compassion, I think, is that you want to go from empathy to compassion, which is the higher level. It means that you not only feel for the other person, you actually do something. So a compassionate person does something. An empathetic person just feels something. And that's the difference.
Mm, yeah, it comes back to doing again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a recurrent theme in my books.
Mm, yeah. And I also really liked your ikigai. You sort of
Yeah, yeah.
I like how you reframed that sort of, you know, sort of do what you love, right? And then be willing to improve or to go push through the shit sandwich to improve, but
Yeah.
also to not expect to get paid for it.
Well, see, I think that now listen, I am Japanese American, but I don't want to give you the impression that I spent 20 years studying with Buddhist monks and I like truly understand Japanese and all that because I'm just as American as Donald Trump Jr. But I'll tell you something that lots of people define ikigai as you draw three circles, which is what you love to do, what you're good at doing, and what you can get paid at. And in the middle of those three is what your ikigai should be because you can get paid, you like it, and you're good at it. I disagree with that definition. My definition is that ikigai means that you are not good at it, you cannot get paid at it, and you may hate it because you're not good and not getting paid at it, but you still do it. And that for me is surfing, right? I'm not good at it. I love doing it. Sometimes I hate it, and I'm never going to get paid for it. So if you, under those conditions, if you still surf every day, you could probably bet that it's your ikigai or something you truly, truly love because it's not because it's the money. It's not because it's easy. It's only because you love it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I really like that. It's a good twist on because I was very aware of ikigai. I think everyone is nowadays. It's become part of pop culture, but that was a really good reframing. I really liked that. Um, Ellen Langer.
The psychologist.
Yes. What did she, how did she change your perspective on things?
Oh, okay. So Ellen Langer, she made the brilliant observation to me that we spend so much time trying to make the right decision, but what we should do is make our decisions right. And going back to that surfing analogy, so yeah, spend your whole life in or the whole session in the water trying to make the right decision, but what you should really do is turn and burn and make that decision right, which means that you can compensate by, turning the board or paddling harder or softer or, popping up, fading, and then going right. Or, who knows, right? But Ellen Langer is all about, yes, yeah, take your best shot, but then make your decision right. And I think that is a very good prescription for how to lead a remarkable life. You've got to make your decisions right.
Do you do you do you mean by that as in once you've made a decision to accept it and sort of trust that it is right?
Well, I don't know about trust, but I mean, just, I think the reality is that you never can make the exact perfect decision because the future is unknowable and there's so many variables. So I'm not saying that, okay, so I mean, if you got married to somebody and that person is physically abusive, I'm not saying stick in the marriage and make the decision right. Okay, there are some things, there are limits to these things, right? But to think that the grass is always greener and to think that perfection lies in the next wave, not this one. I think that's suboptimal. At some point, you just got to make it right.
Mm, yeah. So it's kind of about being present, really.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Mm, interesting. Is meditation part of your life?
No. No. Yeah, like, Mark Benioff in his interview talked about meditation, all that. I don't have time for meditation. I'm a doer. I'm not a meditator. What can I say?
Mm. It's an.
Maybe I should meditate more. Maybe I could hang 10.
I would argue that. I mean, you said yourself earlier that even in the middle seat in cattle class on the airplane, you have the ability to focus on something.
Yes.
Most people meditate in order to get more of that, I think.
Well, then I was born with it.
Yeah, you're lucky. I see the statue in the background. And is Buddhism part of your life?
No, it's just I I am in a closet that I've made into a sound studio, and I wanted to have an interesting background. So, I have tried dozens of things. I have this lamp, I have this fake flowers, I have fake flowers, I have the lamp, I have bamboo, I have vases. I've tried all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I'm constantly experimenting to get, like, you have that surfboard back there, but I don't have space for a surfboard, and
Mm, mm. So you're a little bit of interior design.
you know what? I don't want to tell you how many hours I have spent trying to make a good background, putting all this soundproof foam, getting this stuff here. Like, it would probably be measured in days, in days.
Oh no, it's a good thing. I think it looks good, and your voice is coming across with no echo. So well done.
Well, I once spent a few weeks trying to make sure that the video and audio was perfectly synced, because I was getting a case where the audio was about 2 frames behind the video. And the way you test that is you do something like you clap, and you clap, and you see when your hands hit, and then you look and you see if there's a spike of the clap matching that exact moment, right? And it wasn't. It was 2 frames off, and that just freaking drove me crazy. And then finally I found something that you can add, frames of delay for the video, or I don't know, vice versa, whatever it was. Yeah, I'm a little nuts that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, you got to get that sort of stuff right, though. I think it does matter. Um, is that sort of is it that sort of a bit of a perfectionism that you speak about there?
A bit. I'd say there's a freaking wheelbarrow full. Oh.
If there was one message that you hoped someone got out of your most recent book, what is that?
People realize that it's not about deciding you want to be remarkable. The way it works is you make a difference, you make the world a better place, and you make the world a better place, then people will believe you are remarkable. So it's not a which came first, it's just an order. You make the world a better place, people will think you're remarkable. And so the focus not on being remarkable as much as making a difference.
I love that. Guy, thank you much. Thank you so much.
All right.
Congratulations on
I
the
might go
book.
surf a second session. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. I'll have links to all of everything, Guy, in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. All the best to you.
All right. Thank you, Guy. Awesome. Really
Bye bye.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye bye.